Okay, well, that was Ubisoft's press conference. So now we're going to go into Square Enix, our last one for the day.
The penultimate, because technically Nintendo was after this, but
Sure.
this was Square Enix. It took Sony's slot, the big
Monday
guns.
night,
This was
9
this is
o'clock.
when this was our last chance, other than Nintendo, to get the home run.
Mm-hmm.
And so it started off really strong, I think.
Yes, they had a really great
Clearly,
opening.
because it started off with Final Fantasy VII Remake, which we just talked about a couple weeks ago from the State of Play. They showed a little teaser, and we got more information. They also did something at the Final Fantasy concert the other
Yeah,
night.
they actually, I think they revealed the release date
Yeah,
at that, and then,
but we got to see more of it. They did a full-on gameplay demo.
Yeah.
We got to see Cloud and Barrett fight the Scorpion monster at the end of the towards the end of the first mission, where you're going to blow up the building.
And then,
So we got to see the gameplay demo, and then we got the demo is playable at E3, so people were able to get hands on. We've heard positive things out of it so far. We'll keep an eye out for that. And we got a release date of March 3rd, 2020. So we have a date. It exists. Will they make it? Not a chance in hell.
will not stay at that date.
This is the same company that took 14 years to make the next mainline Kingdom Hearts and 10 years to make Final Fantasy Versus 13, which actually became 15. So,
Right.
I'm excited. I really liked Final Fantasy VII. My history with Final Fantasy VII starts back on the PS1 when I owned it, and then I played through the first disc, and then the second disc was corrupted, and I never went back.
Yeah.
Until a couple years ago, it came out on the PS4 as a PS1 classic, and I platinumed it because it was fantastic. And it was much better because you could turn on 3 times speed, and it was so much better because if you try to go back and play that game originally, it's like going back and playing Pokemon Red and Blue. It's slow, everything takes forever, and it's already a turn-based game, so it doesn't do anything until you do something. So you have that, and then it takes forever to walk anywhere. So if you turn that 3 times speed on, you're just flying through.
Yeah.
It was great. So, so I'm excited about this. It looks like a more active time battle. They gave us a couple different ways to play. There's you can just kind of hack and slash it and hotkey buttons. We can also be more strategic. Apparently, there's a way to slow down time and do an active time battle thing where you get
tactical.
yeah.
Mode.
Select different moves and abilities that you have, and everything around you just stops and slows down, and it's really cool. I'm interested to get my hands on it, but what did you think?
I thought the way they opened the press conference was great. I love they had a little painting, or
Had the
picture frame.
original splash screen. Oh, sorry.
So they had the picture frame, and then the unveiled splash screen with the the options with the sword, and then picking the remake option. I thought that was a fantastic way to open it. And then I mean, I never played really Final Fantasy VII. I think I played through the first mission once when I was younger, and then every time I think about playing it, I just I don't think I can do it. So and because I'm not huge on turn-based, Persona 5 is kind of an anomaly for me. So I find that if it's as active as it looked, which it looked like it was pretty active, and I like the depth of the systems, which gives it thoughtful combat. That I think it'll be something I definitely play.
Sure. I think they're still committed to releasing it kind of episodically. They said basically so Final Fantasy VII is a huge game, and the first quarter of it takes place in Midgard, and then after that it opens up into a whole hub world that you get. According to them, the first game is going to be basically just Midgard.
Right.
So it sounds like we're going to at least get 2 games. I would guess 3 because there's just so much more game after Midgard. That was the really cool thing about playing that game is I thought I was getting close to the end at first because I was getting close to the end of Midgard. We were getting up there, and then as soon as you get done, you're like, no, you got to leave, and you go out, and there's just a whole world to explore, and that was really cool. So I'm excited to see how they do it. I want to see if they do some of the really cheeky things that Final Fantasy VII did. There's like a cross-dressing scene that they can do, and like there's a bathhouse scene that's pretty interesting. So
Interesting.
I'll be curious how much of that they go back into. So moving on from that, we have a Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles coming to consoles and mobile this winter. So that's cool.
I don't even remember what that was.
I don't either.
Though.
The Last Remnant Remastered is now available. Dragon Quest Builders 2.
Whoa.
July 12th. There's a demo playable on June 27th. This is where this conference just drug on.
I don't know. I think the conference started dragging after Final Fantasy VII.
No, yeah, I agree. But I think those things moved fast enough.
Sure.
And then they spent forever talking about Dragon Quest Builders, which is just a Minecraft clone. And they just kept talking. And just kept talking about it. I was like, how much more do you need to show me? It's a bunch of blocks. You could break stuff and you can build stuff.
And you can fight other people.
Like, oh my gosh. So, yeah, that's where, like, all right, way off the rails here.
I'm happy for you, though, if you really like Dragon Quest Builders.
I mean, again, this is one of those, like, did you really need to see that much? It all looks like Dragon Quest Builders. I mean, if you like the first one, you're going to like the second one, I presume. So, I don't know. They showed Circuit Superstars for release in 2020. Actually, I skipped one because Dragon Quest. After they showed Dragon Quest Builders 2 for 20 hours, they then showed Dragon Quest 11 coming to, was it the Switch this fall?
Yeah, and well, yes, this fall. So. And then Nintendo gave it a release date of, we said it yesterday. Sorry.
Dragon Quest 11, Switch.
July 29th.
July 29th.
Wait,
no. That was the original release date. One day ago.
September 27th.
September 27th.
Sorry for that interstitial.
So, yeah, it's already been out. So if you were looking to play it on the Switch,
yeah,
it's Echoes of an Elusive Age.
Yeah.
So after Dragon Quest, they did they had this like dev diary about Circuit Superstars, which is set for release in 2020. It's basically this top-down racing game. I remember I had a Game Boy game that it was like a little Formula One. You got to see you just race around the track, and it was kind of like that. But it was a very pretty looking game, very well designed. I'd be curious to check it out because I liked that game. So, and like I said, the visuals are very nice on this game.
Right.
Next up was Battalion 1944. It's Call of Duty meets like what was it? A Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
So, if you're into that, it's now on Steam.
Yeah, nothing about that looked too revolutionary, but I'm sure it's more about the time period and the combat than...
It's probably more just about how it feels to play, the multiplayer. So, they also had a trailer for Final Fantasy Music is now on streaming.
Yeah.
Cool. You can get on all streaming, or at least the most major streaming services. And if you were tired of Kingdom Hearts... I feel sorry for you, but Kingdom Hearts 3 DLC was announced, called Remind, coming out this winter. Terrible trailer. I was like, well, we've seen all this before.
Yeah.
It took us a second to realize that we were seeing things that we'd already played, but from another perspective. You could play as some of the other characters, but it wasn't very clear about how that happens, or if this is just like a chain of memories where it just goes back into those memories of what you were doing, and then you have to replay them again. I don't know.
It was very confusing, and I'll probably play it, especially since it's free.
So, after that, they brought in Final Fantasy XIV Online. Shadowbringer comes out July 2nd.
Yeah.
So if you're into
Glad
that,
they're still-
Final Fantasy 14. I played the demo for the week I had it. I enjoyed it a ton. It was really fun.
But you won't get into it.
No, it's just
Yeah.
too many big games to try to get into.
Right.
I think this is the first like big IP they revealed was Outriders, coming summer 2020. I as soon as I said it, I instantly forgot how the trailer went.
No, I mean it was kind of a Gears-looking,
Right.
dark door opening with an evil demon. I mean, it looked like it could be cool.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. They didn't really lean into it enough to give us any sort of insight other than it's a co-op shooter.
Yeah, it's a co-op shooter. It's made by I had one of the lead developers of Gears. So
Well, Gears of War 5 Judgment, which is a shoot-off, or Gears of War 4 Judgment. Gears of War Judgment is a shoot-off.
one of the Gears, but I mean it looked like a third-person cover-based co-op shooter. So
Yeah.
it did look interesting, and we'll
Yeah.
keep an eye out for that. That's, like I said, summer 2020. Then they showed off Oninaki. I honestly don't remember what that one was. Was that the scary?
No. It's it's a throwback action RPG.
Throwback action RPG.
Coming from
that
Tokyo
the one that
RPG
kinda-
Factory.
That kind of had that Ghibli.
I don't think so.
No,
It comes out August 22nd.
August 22nd on that one.
Sorry, we're looking at the. No, I mean
Yeah,
it looks kind of neat.
looks like a JRPG.
Yeah.
Cool. Final Fantasy VIII is finally getting remastered. It's never
Yeah.
been ported. It's never been up-res. It's been the redheaded stepchild of the Final Fantasy series. It's coming in 2019. I don't know if they've given us a hard and fast release date, but they are actually doing it.
It's just sometime in 2019.
Cool. And then
You think
finally,
you'll play that one?
no,
No, why not?
I don't know. Just probably won't. I mean, if I
mean,
have time somewhere,
yeah.
I might hop into it.
I always thought Leon was cool.
Well, yeah, but that's because he was in Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah. And
And
Gunblade.
it was voiced by David Boreanaz, who sounded really bored after when we went
Well,
back
yeah,
and played
but
it.
he's not probably the voice in the. He's probably not the voice in the.
No, he probably didn't have much of a voice in
No.
the PS1.
But there was the one summon with the Demon Rock from the Fire Rock. There's a summon in Final Fantasy X. Ifrit, yeah, it looked like Ifrit was in 8.
Well, most of the summons,
Are the same.
many of the summons carry over between
Okay.
the iterations. So, cool. Happy for people who have been waiting. For fans who have been waiting, this is what you've been waiting for.
Yeah.
I might check it out. I'm not saying I won't, but I don't have an affinity for it. I've only played 7 and 10
Yeah.
as far as Final Fantasy games go. So, and now the big one, the one we were all waiting for this seemingly just forever press conference, Avengers.
Yeah.
Developed by Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal. We finally got really deep into the details on what's going on.
But not deep enough.
Well, we can always get deeper, but
Yeah.
So, first thing is we got a release date, May 15th, 2020.
Very excited.
Very excited, which means they also have plenty of time to polish a lot of things that need
Which
polishing.
looks like it might need.
You're going to play as one of or all of 5 characters: Captain America, Thor, Hulk, Black Widow, and Iron Man. And voiced by the Avengers of voice acting: Nolan North, Troy Baker, Laura Bailey, Travis Willingham, and a new guy that no one knows, Hawkeye.
Yeah.
No, not really, but I'm sure he's fine. But it was just funny that and they had them come out on do like an interview tape or whatever, where they talked about their characters and
I thought that was kind of neat because
Yeah.
I think it represents like the fact that these characters are iconic, and so are these voice actors.
And these voice actors like appreciated the fact the characters they were playing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think doing stuff like that in these conferences can go a long way to, like, if you don't have a lot to say, bringing out the voice actors, bringing out the creative directors, like just a little bit. Not that don't overstay your welcome, because I think what they did there was a perfect amount of time
Right.
of them out there and talking about their characters and the story a little bit.
The other guy is Jeff Sheen as Captain America. So Laura Bailey, Nolan North, Travis Willingham, and Troy Baker are all in it.
I think they did a very good job of making them look familiar but distinct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people criticisms about the way they look, that they just look generic. I was like, well, I think they just look different.
Mm-hmm. I'm not wearing my Avengers shirt, but I'm pretty sure that they look more like their comic book versions of some of the heroes. I think the hair was terrible on all of them.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of those things that looks like it might hopefully get touched up.
Right.
It's it's going to have both single player and co-op like story missions. So I don't know if they're like separated. Like it could be single. Maybe there's a set of story missions, and they could be single player or co-op, or if there's going to be single player missions and then co-op missions. Mm-hmm. It was kind of unclear.
Yeah, they have this. It seems like based off their pitch that it was a sort of single player story campaign that can be co-op, but also a live service game, which is a weird because they talked about. This is just the way year one's going to look like, and it's going to be an ever-evolving story, and every year there's going to be more.
Yeah, they're going to grow the roster. You can play with up to 4 players online. There will be no additional costs, at least, I guess, for like expansions or characters. There's no loot boxes or pay to win. The fact that those have to be bullet points is kind of weird to me at this point. Like for Call of Duty and Anthem and Apex, those made sense, but this is a single player, presumably a single player kind of game. I wouldn't expect to run into at least loot boxes.
Well, again, they are. I mean, there is supposed to be a live service element to this game.
I know, but but the draw of this shouldn't be just this live service. This is the Avengers game.
That's what the big question about this is that they talked for so long about this, the story, A-Day and things going wrong and Captain America maybe dying or whatever. This is all in the trailer. And then near the end when they started talking about things, they kind of just jumped to this part where there's this live service element, but they didn't really talk about how that was integrated, which is the big question.
They gave us a lengthy trailer that wasn't all gameplay, but it was clear that there were some gameplay elements in this trailer. There will be Sony exclusives. There's going to be a beta, as well as, quote, benefits, whatever that means. It's going to be released on PS4, Xbox, and Stadia. And like I said, May 15th, 2020. So overall, what did you think?
I mean, I was impressed by what I saw. I said, I alluded to this on an earlier episode, or maybe even earlier on this podcast, that my reaction to Star Wars versus the internet reaction, and then with this, is flipped. Everyone's excited for Star Wars, and I'm not as excited. And then I'm excited for this, but it seems like the internet isn't ready to be excited for this.
Sure.
And that's kind of how I feel about Star Wars anyway. So, people are criticizing the character designs and stuff like that, and I never really. I mean, there's things that could be improved, but it never really came away with they look different. They look like original characters that just so happen to be these, and they, to me, and I don't think this is deliberate. It's too early to tell if it's deliberate, but these characters look like they exist in the same world as Marvel's Spider-Man.
Yeah,
and I could see that the physical looking Peter Parker, I can see that Peter Parker standing in a room with those guys.
Yeah, as long as they look better.
Well, yes, but
No, I'm with
yeah.
you.
So it seems to me that
The Avengers Tower.
there's an aesthetic,
Yeah.
regardless if they're associated.
The Avengers Tower we saw in the trailer at the very beginning did bear a resemblance to the tower we saw in Spider-Man.
That's true.
In Spider-Man, there was a line about the Avengers when you go up to the tower. They're like, oh yeah, but those guys are out west, or
Yeah, in the game.
And this takes place in L.A. or San Francisco because of the bridge. It's always the bridge that gets blown up. But I think the gameplay they showed a lot of like action elements, so like Thor's hammer and Hulk smash and that kind of stuff. I thought those looked good. I think if they had done a little bit more, like they did for Final Fantasy, maybe not as much, or maybe shorten that Scorpion fight at the beginning.
Yeah.
Just a couple minutes. Zip through it a little bit, and then give us an expanded look at what gameplay looks like here. I think that would have bookended it very well.
Yeah.
I think to fix the conference, they would have to do a lot more than that. But I think those two elements would have been really good. Show us what the gameplay is like.
Right.
They gave us enough story elements here to kind of get 5 years later, get an idea of what's going on. But the most important thing is how is this going to feel.
Right.
And both the story and how it feels are important.
Very much.
We get what they're doing with the story. It seems really neat and interesting. I'm excited to get into that. But the gameplay has to be good too. So
I have a hunch that some of the PlayStation benefits might have something to do with Spider-Man, because
it's very possible.
I mean, you said something like people will be very upset.
The thing is about sorry to cut you off, but I think if it was not connected, I think at some point, like, no, this is not connected. They would be very clear about that, and I don't think they have been yet.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I mean, I agree, and I also think like it could also just be at a point where they're not willing to make it connected because they don't know what that looks like, especially because Spider-Man's exclusive,
right?
And how that'll look for everyone else, unless they decide to bring it everywhere else, which I don't see happening.
Yeah. That would be hard to do. I mean, but Marvel painted themselves in this corner by doing this exclusive with Spider-Man, which is great, and so we'll just see what these exclusives are and see how everything pans out. But overall, so we finally got our look at Avengers. We got our look at Final Fantasy VII. What did you think of Square?
I thought it was fine. Actually, I didn't like it a lot. I didn't like a lot of it. Is what I mean.
Yeah.
But they really were, and it sounds bad. They were really leaning into their Japanese titles, which is great that they have them and that they're talking about them. But I mean, maybe it's because I'm just like a Western guy that, the ones that I care about were Final Fantasy and Avengers. And I mean, there was theoretically stuff in there that I could play or that I could see myself playing, but it was just kind of long and drawn out. The Dragon Quest builders was the same. It's like it wasn't. They didn't like with the Nintendo conference. They sped through it. They're like, here's a game. Do you like it? Do you not? Whatever. Here's the next game. Here's the next game. They did it the best in terms of that. So,
yeah, I agree. Mostly, it was meh. I think there could have been things there are things they could have done to have made what they showed here the best conference.
Yeah.
I think shortening like everything else. Dragon Quest Builders, I don't need 10 minutes on that. I need 2 minutes in and out, done. Battalion 1944, it's out now. Great. You know what it is. If you want to play it, it's a shooter. Cool. Like, we can shorten some of that out. I think some people were complaining about the Final Fantasy 14 online thing. That didn't bother me. The trailer was neat. It reminded me of the Elder Scrolls thing on Bethesda. I think the Elder Scrolls one was much longer, and I still don't know if it was too long. It was probably edging on too long, but not quite there. I think as far as like reveals, I think they had the most new games revealed.
Yeah, they did.
Unofficially, because I don't know off the top of my head, but even if they were as far as like even remakes new, new sequels, um, new games, you have uh, n- there was less like DLC or updates to games that they're working
That's
on.
true.
There was no like Final Fantasy 15 new DLC. There was all we saw was Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy 14 getting new content, and everything else is either more. There was remasters and there was the Final Fantasy 7 remake, but everything was more new.
Right.
Um, and if they'd done what I was talking about, cut a couple minutes off the Scorpion fight because we get it. It was really cool to watch.
It did.
But
you
you could
went on a little too long.
They could speed that up just a hair, and then give us some more gameplay in Avengers. Cut everything out in the middle shorter. Not even everything, but the ones that Battalion, sorry, Dragon Quest 11. That could be they could have done it like a little sizzle reel.
Mm-hmm.
If they had done that and shortened this conference by about 15 minutes,
Yeah.
I think it would have been the strongest. Not necessarily a home run because you're still. I mean, Avengers is really cool. If it looked better and we got more into it, I think that might have won the show. But it looked still a little rough around the edges.
Mm.
The hair didn't move. Like there are things that we expect to see in a PS4 title on the brink of PS5 that we weren't really seeing there.
Yeah.
And just more gameplay. Like, how does Thor feel? Does the hammer feel at least almost as good as the axe from God of War? Like, is it going to have that weight to it?
Mm-hmm.
Is a Hulk smash going to feel like a Hulk smash in the PS2 game where he's just running around like destroying all cars or whatever? Or is it going to feel like the Hulk's got weight to him and he's a force to be reckoned with?
Mm-hmm.
I think they could have just done a little bit more on that to really spike this conference up. But I think as it sits, it was the middle ruined this conference as far as pacing goes, and probably lost it the winning spot.
Yeah.
I don't know that anybody really won.
Yeah.
At this point, if we look back on all of E3, I mean, we already should have, or soon we're going to have our Nintendo one up. But based on everything we've seen, what are your thoughts?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think it was a pretty, C grade E3. But I mean, I feel like, because this is gonna sound bad. It's not meant to be bad. Right now, the consensus is that, like, we want to be positive because people work really hard on these conferences, and they, all these games, people are behind them. People are, pushing for these games to be great. But to be honest, I feel like all of these games that people got a chance to see were mainly not serviced well by the people who were presenting them, or by the way the presentations were given. There were some games that were just really bad, and games that went on too long. But I feel like at the end of the day, no matter how good of a job you do, you still have to know that. I mean, there's still bad conferences and good conferences. With that being said, I think I've been debating in my head, even though I've stated it a few times already, that I thought Bethesda's was the one I appreciated the most. And I've been thinking about why, because after talking through these other conferences, I'm like, well, yeah, you're right. That was like that, and that was like that. I think part of it has to do with I was really pulling for them to show up to the conference and to own it, like own what they've done wrong, and prove that they're working to do better. And I believe that they are. But having watched the other conferences, maybe Bethesda's wasn't the very best, but I think maybe Nintendo's was better. because of what I was just earlier about. Like, there was no lulls
Yeah.
in Nintendo's, even if there was not a whole lot of titles that I cared about. Um, I knew what was exciting, and I knew what wasn't, and so did they.
Yeah. I'm pretty much with you. I think I get your Bethesda thoughts. They have Bethesda always has a great energy to them. They have a great personality. They're very personable, and to a degree. But I think some of that comes off a little corporate-y to me.
Maybe.
I think Todd Howard.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a cool dude that like wants to relate to gamers, but he's still Todd Howard, the like head guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's got some gravitas to him, and he knows it.
Yeah.
You know, they can come out and curse and swear, and there's still this like pretentiousness to them, especially after hearing the IGN interview where they knew this game was broken. They knew it wasn't going to score well, and they still sold it for $60.
Mm-hmm.
And
I actually haven't listened to this yet, but
they still sold it for $60. They went for months with basically a broken game, and like 2 weeks after the release, I discounted it by almost half.
mm-hmm.
And I mean, doing that kind of stuff, along with the plethora of things that it did wrong, leaves a bad taste in my mouth about how they did things. Now they have continued to fix it. These updates are free. I think that's the right move because, like people were saying,
oh yeah, if they were gonna charge for any of this, that would have been like go. You know.
Yeah. There's no way. So I think Bethesda, and the fact that in their conference they just didn't show a whole lot of new things that excited me.
Sure.
They showed those two things that were really exciting, but they didn't show anything about them: the Ghostwire and Deathloop.
Yeah.
If I step back though and really look at it, it's all right to have an E3. That this is just a E3 about maintaining
Where we're at.
we have new generation coming up. I think the reason this is so disappointing is one, we were expecting Xbox to really just blow this out. We were expecting to see next gen, and we haven't. We were promised we were going to see next gen, and it didn't happen. I think that soured everything else, and not having Sony, which has a whole lot of third parties, which is probably almost as important as their first parties, because they set a platform for these developers to announce their games.
Right.
So without Sony there was just not enough meat.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't think the meme going around that Sony won because they didn't go. I think Sony saw what they said. There's just not enough to do a conference. There wasn't enough to do a PSX, and they took it as, we don't have to spend this money. Go out there and tell you something, and for you to be disappointed.
Right.
And we've built E3 up and all these conferences up to expect something big every time. That when they're just telling us what's going on, it's a letdown.
Right.
And so, I've been pretty much critical of every conference that we've talked about.
Yeah.
And maybe a little harder than I needed to be, but we were wanting the home run.
Mm-hmm. Well, I said this before, but and it's not even, well, we expected the absence of Sony to give Microsoft the ledge to prove to them why we needed to buy an Xbox, and instead it just proved to me why I can wait for Game Pass to go anywhere. And then I expect a Nintendo, who isn't waiting on a next console to show off. Yeah, I expected them to be like, you know what, like the coast is clear. Look both ways. It's like, guess what? We got all this stuff. And granted, people love Breath of the Wild.
Yes.
And that was a huge announcement.
It wasn't. I don't think it was a huge announcement.
I mean, no one knew that it was coming out. And then, it would have been cooler if they waited next year and then released a full blown trailer. Yes, would they? But that also runs the risk of people spoiling it. So hold on.
Sure, go ahead.
And then, so I expected the people who don't need to wait on the next consoles to really shine through and really give me a reason to play their games. And right now, I don't necessarily feel that. What I do think this means is that 2020 is going to be a packed year with a lot of great games, and I think I have a hunch we will see some sort of conference from Sony this year, some sort of thing, if it's PSX or whatever, and I think even though they said that E3 landscape is changing, and clearly it did, I think we'll see them again next year. I think they'll be back. I mean, because E3 is going to happen regardless. And what they did this year that was so well, I mean, the fact of the matter is, everyone saw all these conferences, were like, man, I wonder what Sony would have done, which we've already said, probably the same thing if they had done a conference. But instead, now it's like, what are they holding back?
Yeah.
And then, we didn't mention this, but like, quietly,
Yeah.
throughout E3, they've been dropping videos. Some are games that were announced with everything else, but some were their own announcements.
Yeah, I was going to bring this up. So on Sony's, on PlayStation's YouTube channel, they have been like not like broadcasting it, but they've been posting like trailers for everything that's been announced at E3, and then some.
Yeah,
things that
now,
we didn't know about.
We don't know for sure if these were just broadcasted some other time.
Right. These might be like stories that are just at E3 that we wouldn't have known, but the fact that many of these games were not on any stage, we didn't. We did a short list. So we didn't get every one of them.
Yeah.
If you want to check them out, just go to PlayStation's YouTube channel. But we did get a short list of those games.
Yeah. So real quick, Rad, which is a Double Fine game coming out August 20th, 2019. Sniper Elite Sniper Elite VR is coming sometime this year, which it actually looks pretty interesting. Might give it a try, except I'm not gonna have my VR unit with me. Walking Dead Onslaught VR comes this fall. Persona 5 Royal, the Royal, had a English dubbed trailer, so it shows that it's actually doing that, but they still haven't had a release date for that yet.
No, we know the Royal is coming out in Japan this year, and we're getting it next year.
Okay. Control, which was announced at Sony's E3 press conference last year, finally has a release date of this August the 27th, though I don't believe that it's an exclusive. For some reason, I feel like it's not an exclusive.
I thought it was, but I might be wrong.
There's a game called Lost Words Beyond the Page, which is a side-scrolling, cute
looks like a platformer,
yeah,
maybe a puzzler.
Coming in December. Greedfall, which is a game that I've been keeping up with for I say keeping up with. I first saw something about it like 3 or 4 years ago, and something that I was scrolling through on Facebook, and I saw this. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. It's never really been talked about, like on any sort of stage. But it looks like visually it looks really good. It kind of has Assassin's Creed aesthetics to it, but it's supposed to be pretty hefty RPG. Coming this September, and then Shenmue 3. I know a lot of people care about that. Is coming out November 19th. So, going back to my point, and then you can go back to what you're saying. So, I do think that they'll do something this year, and then they'll do something next year at E3, or they'll just announce the game like your theory is, or announce the console. But I mean, what they've effectively done by not being here is just they still had a presence by not being.
Yeah. Their absence was felt.
Yeah.
I think that was their goal. This was a very bold move. They could have come here. They could have showed all this stuff that they put in on YouTube. They didn't have to. They didn't have enough. They didn't have the 1-2 punch. They didn't have a God of War or Horizon to talk about because they just gave us a Death Stranding release date. We know we're going to get Ghost of Tsushima. We're going to get Last of Us 2, and they don't have anything left for us to know for this generation, and I think that's pretty clear. My thoughts on E3, because I think it was, like I said, I think it's okay to have a lull year. This is just about continuing the generation. I think the biggest disappointment was Xbox because they could have knocked it out of the park. They could have shown actual Halo gameplay, and they didn't. And it's still not coming out until the end of 2020. They could have shown the console, named the console, done more than Sony did in a magazine interview, and they didn't. And we could have seen a game in the next generation. We could have seen something, but they didn't show anything except a weird title screen for a name we already knew.
Right.
And I just felt like they dropped, and they saved it towards the end. So they built it up. They built up this long, fine conference. It was fine.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad, but they built it up, and then they just didn't deliver, and that's a problem. So that was the biggest disappointment. I think the most interesting thing that we've seen so far is Stadia.
Yes.
Back to Microsoft. They were supposed to talk about xCloud, and they briefly talked about xCloud just about as long as they talked about the console. And apparently xCloud's playing pretty well, but they didn't show us. They didn't put anybody on stage playing the game like Bethesda did. They just said, "Oh, you can demo it in the thing, and goodbye."
Yeah.
So I think Stadia was if you count it as the E3, because it was more of a reveal event than a conference, because we still have some confusion. But I think as a presentation, they were very clear. They were clear up front what they were going to talk about. They talked about what they said they were going to talk about. They gave us prices that were very reasonable, and a release date, a release month.
Yeah.
And I think they knocked it out of the park for what we needed to know right now. I think, again, we could have been more clear about how the games work. If it's just Destiny 2 included in the Pro right now, and they're going to add more games, or all those games they listed included in the subscription, or are they all a la carte except those things we will get answers to. They could have answered them here and made it a little bit more clear, but I think overall, against all the other conferences, they did very well. And then the Destiny reveal for the next expansion was probably the best thing shown, because this is the first release without Activision. They're going to do we're getting crossplay. We're getting the free-to-play version. I think doesn't include. We said in another video, up to Forsaken. I don't think it includes Forsaken.
You don't think so?
No, I think it goes up to. It's just the year one content. So, Destiny 2, Curse of Osiris, and the Warmind DLC. The raids and the raid layers with that, and then I think again, if you get the Shadowkeep DLC, I think it comes with everything before it.
Okay.
So, and I think that all new locations are you can go to every location in the game if just as a player.
Well, we did a whole thing on
right. I'm just saying that's why I think Destiny for me was probably the most exciting thing I saw.
Right.
Because I mean, I love Destiny. It's a really cool game. I want to put more hours into it. Now that it's going to be available on Stadia, maybe I'll have the access to do that whenever and wherever I am. And I'm hearing good things about Stadia I'm hearing good things about Stadia and xCloud at this event. So I think that bodes well. They're still controlled environments. We still need to learn more, but those two things I think were very well presented. Versus everything else was fine.
Right. Yeah. Well, I wrote down a list of my highlights for this E3. So you'd say really it's Destiny. What else would you put on the list?
Probably some of the things you're going to talk about.
Okay. I don't know that it's in this order, but I said my E3 games I'm already stoked about so far. Not so far anymore, but just I'm stoked for it. 12 Minutes, which was the Annapurna game that was released or was announced at the Xbox conference. Deathloop, Cyberpunk 2077, Foregone, which was not in any of the main conferences, but it was in the Kind of Funny Games showcase. There's 60 indie games. We didn't talk about it because there's so many games.
There's so many games, and very few of them that we're going to be like
able to really talk about. But Foregone was one of the ones they highlighted, and it looked awesome. Actually, I tweeted at the devs saying I was really excited for them, and they said, thank you. You can go ahead and wish list it on Steam. And I was like, that's great, but also can I add it to my come to console wish list? And they were like, yes, because it is. And I was like, you're awesome. You're breathtaking. So I don't know if you go to their website, nowhere have they said that it's coming to consoles, but they told me that it was, so I believe them. I have exclusive information for you right here. And then Astral Chain, which is the Switch game that we talked about, and the Switch one, and then Marvel's Avengers. And then I put honorable mentions, Outer Worlds, and I think I talked about this a little bit ago, in another episode, but I want to like Fallout 76. So I'm putting that as a game I'm excited for because I'm excited for where it's going. I'm excited for where they might go with it, more than I am about whether or not I'll play it.
Yeah. For me,
period.
Destiny 2. I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm excited to see what Bungie does with this game now that they're on their own. 12 minutes, I agree, looks really. We saw it a couple of years ago. It looks a lot better now, and I think that Groundhog Day. Although I think we're getting a lot of games that's using that concept, I think they're doing it in a really interesting and fascinating way. I'm excited to see more of that. Foregone again. It just looks great.
It's by the way, it's a side-scrolling adventure game, but the characters look like they're 3D models, but it's a side-scrolling game.
They're like they look like they've been modeled in 3D but pixelated.
Yeah,
they've got it was just a really cool aesthetic. Cyberpunk 2077. That's one of my I'm interested to see more, but I'm afraid of that game. Deathloop. That's more like I liked the trailer. It looked cool. I don't know if I'm stoked about it yet because I don't know anything about it.
Right.
Marvel's Avengers. I'm excited to see more. If it does a really cool Destiny thing, maybe you, me, and 2 other people can actually be the Avengers, and we have this big boss fight, and I could be the Hulk, coming down, smashing on his head, while you're not Scarlet Witch, but maybe eventually, but you're Scarlet Witch, throwing things at him, and Iron Man's got his Iron Man boots holding him to the ground or something.
Yeah.
If we can have big scale battles like that and feel like Avenger battles, that would be cool. And obviously, if the story is good.
Yeah.
I think overall, Final Fantasy VII. I'm excited to see how that takes shape.
I didn't put that on my list only because I haven't convinced myself whether or not I'm actually going to try and play it.
Sure. What else? Watch Dogs Legion.
Okay,
I'm really excited to see just how they I really want them to pull this off because I think it's very interesting.
Yeah.
I'm afraid that the story's going to fail because of missing that character connection. I like all these characters, that's neat, but I don't know. I don't have my character.
Right.
And I think that's one of the most important things about a video game is you connect with the character. You become the character, and you have a great cast. Like Mass Effect, you are Commander Shepard. I have a Commander Shepard, and he is the savior of the galaxy. And he's got all these really cool people that we recruited along the way, and that was really cool too. But I'm still Shepard.
Right.
If I was Shepard and then Shepard died, now I'm Garrus, and then Garrus died, and now I'm Morton, then
all of a sudden it starts losing its.
You are well, why do I care? This is just Game of Thrones. I don't have a character to follow anymore until halfway through the series, and then So I'm afraid of that, but I think overall, if it plays well, I think conceptually, this is really cool.
Yeah.
Also, they did a similar thing because it's about recruiting people to be part of the organization. They just stole it from Assassin's Creed Brotherhood.
Well, yeah, but different. Well, actually, there are parts that did look similar.
I mean, you recruited people and you send them to do jobs, or you play as them to go do jobs.
Yeah.
And it was called Legion.
Yeah.
Or Brotherhood.
Yeah.
It's a organization. We are Legion.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, they're allowed to steal that from themselves.
Yeah.
So.
I'm just saying it's.
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
And Persona 5 the Royal,
Yeah.
because I can't get enough of it.
Well, that sounds like that's it.
I think that's it, unless like Sony comes out and like, you know what, we're gonna have a state of play the week after, but we'll have to talk about it then.
That next week.
After this week, it's gonna be really different. He's going to LA for a long time, so we have to figure out how that looks. It'll probably be some kind of Skype monstrosity at first until I get it kind of like smoothed out. But we're gonna try to keep doing this, and I hope you all continue to keep watching.
Absolutely. So stay tuned week to week. We're gonna get these videos posted up. Please comment. Please let us know what you think. Please have a dialogue with us about what.
Send us some money so I can fix my computer so we can get these up. No.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. And what games were you excited about from E3? What games were you sad that did not show up? Like Bayonetta 3, or I'm not that upset about it, but I just know that was a game that was announced forever ago and I never heard about it. But I know how that goes. So just let us know what you think. You can tweet us at WareGaming_. You can tweet me at SpeakNicklish.
You can tweet me at Jaws1015.
And until next time.
Say goodbye, Nick.
Bye, Nick. Bye, Josh.
Bye. Enjoy your trip.
I will.